After the floodwater receded, Louisiana homeowners were hit hard by rising insurance rates, many paying thousands of dollars more each year to protect their homes.
State Insurance Commissioner Jim Donnellan says Louisiana collected $25.3 billion for wind losses and another $15 billion in payments for flood damage from Hurricanes Katrina and Rita.
A look now at why many families that returned after the storm are still trying to get back to normal. Craig and Cindy Berthold live in a modest home on Bel Air Drive in Lakeview, 1,200 square feet with a pool in the back. When they evacuated to Mississippi, they, like many others, thought they'd soon return. But the news coming out of New Orleans nearly crushed those hopes.
At first, it was just so upsetting because the people were in such distress and there was no help. And help didn't come. It didn't come for about 5 days. And seeing the people on the rooftops and the people that were needing help and they just weren't getting it really disturbed me.
The Bertholds quickly realized home may never be home again.
I remember just feeling, will we ever have a normal life again? Will we ever be able to smile and laugh again? Because it was just such a terrible thing.
This is Bel Air Drive, easily one of the worst streets in Lakeview, still 10 years after Katrina. Potholes galore, but many people like the Bertholds decided to come back to their street in the days, weeks, and months following Hurricane Katrina. Others did not come back. An empty slab here, a grassy lot there. But for those who did return, for those who braved the streets and the rebuilding process, they still had to deal with big problems with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers years after the storm.
There were some struggles.
By 2009, the Bertholds had finally rebuilt in the same spot. New house, renovated pool in the yard. Life was good again until they learned that the Army Corps and the Southeast Louisiana Flood Protection Authority had to fix the levee along the 17th Street Canal. It was a total redo. At first, they wanted to take a small portion of the Bertholds property and the land belonging to others on the street as well. But 6 feet became 15 feet, and they weren't being compensated.
We were afraid because when we got back, shortly after we got back into the house, which is 4 years later, somebody from the levee board or the Corps of Engineers, I don't know who, but they came back, and I remember standing right out here, and they told us that they could take the property from the levee all the way to the street without compensation, meaning that they could take our house. And that's why we felt we had to fight the battle.
The land grab was over what's termed the right-of-way.
They had no right-of-way, but they knew that they could put us into a legal battle for years, which they did. It's taken 7 years. And they knew, we didn't know at the time, they needed that property to work, to do the remediation work, which we always said, take whatever you need. You can take as much as you want. If you want, you know, just compensate us fairly.
But no one was offering to pay anything, and the Bertholds didn't know what would happen to their home or their neighborhood. All their work to come back could have been for nothing. The pool is a source of joy for Craig Berthold. He uses it daily for 90 minutes. He's saved for it for years while working as an instructor at Delgado Community College. Levee remediation work began in 2011, 2 years after the Bertholds' return. Craig says one of the main reasons he came back to the same location was because of the money he had invested in the pool.
They were working in such close proximity, and it flexed the pool, and it cracked and basically destroyed everything that, you know, we had done to come back. And with you know, fence, pool were all damaged, and so that was extremely discouraging, because then you do feel like what you just said, that you're making all this effort to come back and try to get back your normal life.
And that normal life, for those who lived it after Katrina, was a long time coming, and sometimes seemed in doubt.
You did say that. Yeah, it's like you wanted to come back, you know. It's like, yeah.
You wanted to come back.
Yeah, it's like, you know, because I would say, well, I didn't know that we were going to wind up in a property battle, you know, over an issue, a non-existing right-of-way.
The Bertholds knew there would be struggles and knew things would be difficult along the way. But this battle was unexpected. Craig Berthold says he and others in the neighborhood became obsessed over fighting for their rights.
It wasn't about money. It was wrong, and so we became obsessed with that. So we lost a good chunk, others more than me, of our you know, our lives over a period of 7 years till it finally got, you know, resolved, or is getting resolved. So that that said, we consider ourselves lucky, you know, because we didn't lose anyone. We didn't lose any friends or family.
Craig, an artist, lost 30 years of work in the storm. Tough to deal with, sure. But he says he can live with that because he knows his situation has a scapegoat.
There was incompetence, you know, in design and engineering and execution by the Army Corps.
And now with the Berthold's years-long battle nearly concluded, life is starting to feel normal again.
I feel like I'm getting out of prison in a way, because it's been, and it's a burden because, you know, it was a strain on just dealing with that. So it feels good. I mean, I feel, you know, I think we both feel we can finally move on.
In the 10 years forward since Hurricane Katrina, many people still question why the levees failed, and that makes for an uneasiness among the people who live or lived here.
20% of the people who resided in New Orleans before Katrina never came home. Evacuees landed in cities far and wide. Some stayed there, starting new lives. But the hope of those who came back is for a safer tomorrow, and that those upgrades and safety advances involving our levee system protect us from the next Katrina. I'm Scott Walker.
And I'm Margaret Orr. Thanks for joining us for a look at how we're protecting our city. Katrina, 10 years forward. Good night.